generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am talking about the new Gladiator 2 movie that just came out this past weekend. I'm going to give my thoughts on it with no spoilers at first, give the movie a rating, and then I will talk about the movie in a little bit more detail with spoilers. So, kind of to give you a little bit of background on where I'm at going into this movie is I had not seen the first Gladiator movie until yesterday. So it I'm a little late to the game, so I had to see, the first one just in case the second one needed some of that background information. I can tell you that you do not need to see the first movie to understand what is happening in this movie. They cover just enough flashback information, like when they talk about something, they'll, have a little flashback to the first movie to show what they're referencing and when it happened and who is who. And so, if you're wondering if you have to see the first one, no, you don't have to. What I would also say is that, in my opinion, and don't get mad at me for this, but I actually enjoyed the second one way more than the first one. I thought the first one, although it was cool and it was probably more groundbreaking for its time in the early 2000s, but I just thought that this movie took what happened in the first movie and basically every single aspect was elevated even higher. The complexity of what's happening with all of our characters, that was upped. The amount of important characters that are doing all these different things in the movie, that was upped. The games that are happening in the Colosseum, that was ramped up. And the gore was ramped up. And so I just think they did a lot of things that the first movie did, but better. That's not to say that this movie is an exact copy of the first movie by any means. I would say as far as in relation to the first movie, I'd say maybe about like 20-ish% of this movie is significant in that respect. So like I said, I thought the movie was pretty good. I think all the actors did a really good job in this film. My favorite character, uh, hopefully I don't butcher the name, but Marcrinus or I know it's not Marcrinus, Marcrinus maybe. It's Denzel Washington's character. He was my favorite hands down because he was just really smart, conniving, and he really knew how to get what he wanted. Like he was really good at reading people and understanding what they want, and not only getting them what they want and appearing as a friend, but also finding a way to benefit himself from what all these other people want. So I thought his character was really cool. I did not know that Joseph Quinn was in this movie. I was a little surprised when I saw him, but he killed it as Emperor Geta, or it's got to be Geta. I don't know. He was one of the emperors. There's two emperors in this movie. I think they're brothers, Emperor Geta and Emperor Caracalla. I got all their names pulled up, and I'm just terrible with names. I apologize. But I mean, if you're not aware, what the setting of this movie is that after it's set 16 years after the first movie. Granted, in the first movie, at the end of the movie, Rome was supposed to be at peace, and it was supposed to be ruling with peace, because Joaquin Phoenix's character, the Caesar guy, he really liked to rule through fear and violence, and so. Maximus, the main character from the first movie, he was trying to, find a way to end that stuff. And at the end of the movie, he was able to. But as we all know, sometimes history repeats itself. And because he died, at the very end of the movie, spoiler alert, um, you know, people did what they wanted to do after that. He wasn't there to enforce anything. And so like I said, this movie takes place 16 years later after that. And so now Rome is back under the rule of some not so great people, which are these two emperors. Like I said, Emperor Geta, played by Joseph Quinn, and then Emperor Caracalla by Fred Hetchinger, I think. And the as you can see from the previews as well, there's a you you can kind of gather at least that the movie, it starts off with a little battle, just like the first movie does. We hear Denzel Washington say in the preview that a gladiator is typically a prisoner of war. So that's kind of what we get from where our gladiator is coming from in this movie. And then there's a bunch of other things that go on that our gladiator, Lucius, um, needs to take care of. So uh, I I guess I can just roll into ratings just because, like I said, I really liked this movie. I thought it was great. It did feel a little long. I know it's almost 3 hours, so yes, it probably will feel a little long. I will say I went with my dad, and he felt that the movie moved along very quickly. He didn't feel like it was 3 hours. For me, I kind of did just because it felt like some of that stuff was moving kind of slow. But again, there's a lot that is in this movie, in my opinion, compared to what was in the first movie. And the first movie, was, two over 2 hours as well. So uh, I'm gonna give this movie a solid, and I mean solid 9 out of 10. I I just when I thought about what my rating was gonna be for this one, I was like, it's teetering there between a 9 and a 10. And I thought about, well, what if I gave it a 10? And then my gut was like, I don't quite think this movie is a 10, but I could definitely get behind a solid 9. So that's where I'm at for this movie. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. It is definitely worth seeing in IMAX. That's how we saw it. But let alone just go see it in theaters as well, just because it is a great movie and it is meant to be seen in the theaters for sure. So, rolling into these spoilers, I'm gonna try not to nitpick everything because it is a long movie and that would be a very long explanation. But long story short here, the best I can do. The movie opens with basically being on the brink of war. Uh, Pedro Pascal's character, Marcus, he is on his way to, with a whole bunch of Roman soldiers to claim another territory, kind of like how the first movie started. And our main character, Lucius, he's one of the people in this settlement, and his wife is there too. I think her name is Arishat or Arishat. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I so apologize, people. But needless to say, him and his wife are soldiers. Yes, even she is a soldier. And before the battle even begins, they're trying to tell each other, like, I give you this ring, so you always have a piece of me with you. And they're definitely in love, and they're both definitely to put up a big fight against Rome. Well, in the mix of the battle, his wife dies. And so she dies, and while he is seeing that she died, he gets knocked over the wall and lands in the water on the other side of uh, their settlement. And when he wakes up, the Romans are basically trying to gather up all of the remaining people that are alive, and they're going to take them back to Rome as slaves. So now our main character is heading back to Rome, and he starts off, I believe, in the same little settlement that Maximus does in the first movie, where it's not like the center of Rome. It's like the outskirts of Rome, and they kind of go through a venting session of these slaves to see who's the best of the best in the arena. And we see I thought it was crazy. They released like baboons. I don't know what type of monkey, but I think it's a baboon. But they were like really vicious monkeys that were fighting it out in the little arena that they were in. One thing I thought was interesting about this scene is so the monkeys are just trying to kill, right? And our main character does fight back and he's like going back and forth with this monkey, breaks its teeth at one point, and this monkey is afraid of him. And then when they're getting down to the towards the end of their battle and the monkey is gonna die, once all the other monkeys see that that monkey is dead, the monkeys just stop fighting. And I don't know how these monkeys actually function, right? I don't know if that's kind of what they do if they see one of their kind die and then they just all stop and run in fear. Or are we supposed to believe that, because this is actually the arena that Denzel Washington's character, Marcrinus or Marcinus, I don't know. This is the place that he's overlooking, and then he sees our main character doing very well in the arena and decides to buy him as a slave. And so when uh, Macrinus and Lucius are both, Macrinus sees a lot in Lucius, and so he is kind of trying to get to know him a little bit as a slave. And while this is all happening, uh, Macrinus asks Lucius if there's one thing if there's one person you could fight in the arena, who would it be? And I'll try to get that all set for you. And Lucius wants to kill the general that led the attack on his home, which is Pedro Pascal's character, Marcus. And so, of course, that's going to be a very, very big ask to get him into the Colosseum, right? Like, how do you just have this random slave challenge a war general, and how did they agree to that? Like, why would they send an important general into the arena for a small nobody to fight? Why would you risk that? So, uh, long story short, Macrinus has his work cut out for him. And so there's a couple of different tests that Lucius goes through in the arena. While this is all happening, kind of in the background, Pedro Pascal's character Marcus, oddly enough, so like when he's interacting with the emperors, the emperors, like I said, they're war hungry. They love violence. They want to see games. They say, in honor of your victory, we're gonna host the games. And Marcus is like, I don't want the games and the glory is to Rome. I want nothing. All I want is just to be able to step back from the battlefield and enjoy time with my wife. And they don't like that. And so, what we're kind of gathering here is that there's actually tension between the emperors and our general. And so, when he goes back to his house and he's talking with his wife, we find out that he wants to actually overthrow the emperors. He has 5,000 men that are loyal to him that will be on board for this endeavor if they choose to do it. And so they're planning this all out. But meanwhile, there's also people at his house, like servants and whatnot, that are listening in, and eventually that information's going to leak. During one of the arena battles that Lucius is in, he kneels down and he messes with the sand, just like Maximus does. And the reason why he does this is because, like, to him, he has seen a gladiator fight before, and that's what he saw him do. He does not remember that it was, Maximus. I didn't quite understand this whole dynamic. Like, the big spoiler here is that Lucius is actually the kid that ran away. Like they told him to run away at the end of the first movie because he's the rightful heir to the throne, and so they want him to go away. He was like 12 years old, okay? So on the brink of being a teen, well, he basically is a teenager, but on the brink of becoming an adult too. Like this is the couple years where he'll be transitioning into an adult. And I don't know what happened here because in this movie, he claims that he doesn't know who his mother is. He doesn't remember anything from the past, but yet he remembers this whole dirt thing. And like, I don't get it because it seems like maybe the kid got hit upside the head and he forgot, or is it just that he is denying all of this and he's upset that his mom, which is Lucilla, she's the one that's confronting him about this stuff. When she sees him do the thing in the sand, she's like, "Oh my God, that is the rightful heir. That's who he is." Like she's like, "I can't put my finger on it, but I know this guy." And that was kind of like the final straw of, "Oh, this is who that really is." And so, like, even she goes to him and is trying to tell him this is who you are. And he just like yells at her and tells her, "No, that's not who I am. I don't know what you're talking about." And yes, he's upset about it when she mentions it, but there's other people that are starting to allude to it a little bit too. In one of the games, he gets sliced, and the doctor is, stitching him up. And one of the nights, the doctor takes him to the like the underground part of the Colosseum and shows him that I don't know if it's every gladiator or if it's just special ones, but they end up burying some of the gladiators under the Colosseum and they put their armor and weapons on display. And so Maximus's armor and weapons are right there on display. And so he's like telling him about the doctor is telling Lucius about who this guy is. And I feel like this is when it's all starting to come back to Lucius about how maybe I am that guy. Maybe, people are being honest about all that. Um, so little by little, he's starting to believe more and more that not only is he the heir to the throne, but he's also responsible to stop some of this tyranny that's going on with the emperors. So that's kind of what's going on with him. Let's go back to Macrinus. So Denzel's character. So he has been gambling with somebody about he's gambling against, his slave Lucius and saying that Lucius is going to win all these battles. And the guy that he's betting with, he's basically building up a ton of money. He's like, okay, you lost the first bet for 2,000. Let's just do double or nothing on the next one, and we'll just see what happens. And basically, this snowballs into 10,000, which is supposedly enough to even own that guy's house. And so this is the point where Macrinus basically believes that he owns this dude's house, and he's like, well, you will do as I say because I own your butt, basically, and you will be loyal to me. I don't exactly remember his name. That's not super important because he doesn't play a huge role down the line. But this is the guy that was told the information about how Marcus and his wife were going to try to overthrow the emperor. And this is how Macrinus gets this information. He pulls the information from the guy. He's like, "You owe me, so you tell me the information." And he tells him. So Macrinus goes to the emperors and is like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. You need to take care of Marcus." Why is this genius? Because remember, Macronus needed a way to get Marcus in the arena with Lucius because he wanted to make Lucius happy. But at the same time, by doing this action, it makes Macronus look um, more like he's looking out for the emperors. He's their loyal friend. And because of all this, Emperor Geta, he says, like, you have shown your loyalty. You are going to be like right here with us, kind of a thing. And what's crazy is they eventually put him in the ring with Lucius. Lucius is going to get what he wants to fight him. At this point, Marcus actually, the general, actually knows that Lucius is the rightful heir because Marcus is the husband of Lucilla, which is, um, from what I remember, Lucius's mom. This lineage stuff is like all crazy in this movie, but uh, so they're fighting in the arena. The crowd is actually not happy about this. The crowd was really happy when Marcus came back and won the battle for Rome. They were cheering for him. But now they're seeing that Marcus is being put in the ring, and that's sending a mixed message from the Emperor. The Emperor is saying that Marcus is a traitor, and the crowd is behind Marcus, and so they're really unhappy about all this. Uh, Lucius and Marcus go to fight in the Colosseum, and they basically determine a stalemate. Uh, Marcus goes down to one knee. He says, I surrender, because he doesn't want to die. But people are in the Emperor's ear, and they like Macrinus, for example. And so he knows that Marcus has to die, Lucilla has to die, and eventually Lucius has to die. That family has to die in order for the emperors to stay in power. And so I guess when they ask for mercy, the emperors say that they are told by the gods whether mercy should be given or not. And Emperor Geta purposely put Marcus in the ring to have him die. And so he says, no, the gods say no, no mercy. And he just orders his army to shoot Marcus with arrows. And so he is just like Boromir from Lord of the Rings times 10 kind of a thing, like tons of arrows going to him. So he dies, and then Lucius is taken away. So, where are we escalating here to? So, a lot of the pieces are falling into place. Lucilla is under heavy supervision by the emperors. Like, she's in custody, she's in handcuffs when she's at the arena watching things. Um, Lucius is still a slave. I mean, he's stayed in his cell. Like, once he's done with the games, he goes back to his cell, and that's where he resides in between things. But eventually, the city is not happy about what they saw in the arena with Marcus. And so they start to riot in the streets at night. And the two emperors have a fight, like a verbal fight. And the younger one, at least I think he's younger, Emperor Caracalla, he believes that Emperor Geta never listens to him. And I mean, to be fair, Emperor Caracalla is kind of crazy because he has this monkey that he um, talks to about advice and stuff to how to rule Rome. And so he's a little unhinged, but um, he gets upset about it and he goes to be by himself. And Macrinus, Denzel's character, goes up to him and basically says like, "Yo, your brother doesn't respect you. If you kill him, you'll be the one ruler and you can do whatever you want." And so uh, Emperor Caracalla, he goes up to his brother with a blade and he tries to cut his head off, but he can't really go all the way for whatever reason. And Macrinus comes up and just cuts the rest of the way and chops his head off. So now there's only one emperor, which this new emperor Caracalla, he is going to make, his new set of people that he's going to be working with, like the political people. And he gives one of the positions of power to Macrinus. And the next big thing that they're going to do is Macrinus tells Caracalla, hey, you guys had Marcus killed. Lucilla has to go too. And what she's going to do is she's going to be executed in the Colosseum, but she will be given somebody to defend her. While all this is happening, Lucius is also planning his way of getting back at Rome, the emperor at least. And so he is talking with the doctor, and the doctor gives Lucius the key to his cell and all the other cells. And then the doctor goes out to, I forget the name, but there's a group of people outside of Rome that are loyal to Lucius because the doctor actually, or Lucius is given the ring, I think, if I remember correctly, by his mom. And in the ring it says Maximus's name. And if he Lucius gives the doctor the ring, the doctor goes to these people are loyal to Maximus. And so he's like, hey, have those people march on Rome, and then we're basically gonna have to duke it out and fight for the city. And so before the game, when the games were about to start, I'm trying to remember all this. Uh, they go to bring Lucius into the arena, and th- the slaves break out of their cells, and Lucius goes to the arena to defend uh, Lucilla. And while he's out there, the a whole bunch of the Roman soldiers come out and they're going to, execute Lucilla and only have Lucius in between the two of them. But then all the slaves that were locked up, they rush into the arena and help out Lucius. Uh, while all this is happening, the crowd is getting crazy too, and the crowd is like trying to throw the guards into the arena. They're trying to revolt. And while everybody is distracted, including the one emperor, I thought this was crazy. Denzel's character, Macronus, he had like a little needle up his sleeve and he pulls the needle out and he shoves it into the emperor's ear and kills him, like pierces his brain. So now Macrinus is the leader of Rome. And what we find out is that he was a slave to the king from the first movie. He has like the branding mark to prove it too. And so he has basically weaseled his way up the chain of command to be the ruler of Rome. So now that the emperor is dead, Macrinus is in charge, and he picks up a bow and he fires an arrow and kills Lucilla himself. So he does that, and then he runs off and he tries to rally the armies, his armies of Rome, because they find out that the army that Lucius sent for is coming to the city. So he rides out there with his men to try to fend them off. Lucius finishes up with the slaves in the arena, and then he hops on a horse and heads out to the battlefield outside of Rome as well. I thought this was gonna be another epic like war clashing moment, but really what this ends up being is just Lucius versus Macrinus. And I mean, you can predict what happens here. Lucius ends up winning. It is a very gory scene. I mean, he cuts off Macrinus's hand and then splits his gut open, and uh, it's a fitting end to the movie for sure. Which means now Lucius, I believe, is the ruler because he took out Macrinus, so now he's the one that is going to rule the city, and he brings the two armies together. So the army that was of Rome, like the bad guys, quote unquote, and then the people that were approaching the city, they are all going to be one now together. So this movie does not end with Lucius dying. Like in the first movie, Maximus, our hero, dies at the very end and reunites with his wife in the afterlife. But Lucius does not. So he survives, and I believe he's going to be the ruler from now on. Trying to think if there's anything else that's pretty huge to hit on. I don't think there's very much other things that need to be said. Uh, yeah, we're just going to leave it at that. Like I said, that's long story short. I mean, it's a 3-hour movie that I just covered in the span of like, I don't know, 20 minutes. So there's a lot of other things that are going on, but those are the main plot points that are happening that I thought was significant for the film. And like I said, that's a lot of complex stuff. Like you have Lucius as the slave trying to just fight the one person so that he can, take him out, being the general, which is very similar to the first movie. But at the same time, we have Denzel's character who's trying to work his way up to being the ruler of Rome. Because, like, what a way to get back at the previous king of I was your slave and now I've taken your city. Like, that's pretty cool. So we had that going on. We had the terrible Emperor duo brothers, or I assume they're brothers. They were having their own thing with Rome. The general Marcus, he wanted to overthrow the emperor. I did not foresee that happening in the movie, like him wanting to do that. But I did sense some tension when he came back, and he didn't want all of this craziness that the emperors wanted, but he just wanted to chill at home. But yeah, there was tension there. So, like I said, 9 out of 10. I thought the story was great. I thought the acting was great. And I think it's worth seeing in theaters, so go check it out. If you enjoy this type of video, which normally we have Sarah and I or other people with us as well, but I was the only one that saw it out of our group, so that's why I'm here. But we will have Wicked coming out as well, and Sarah should be on that video with me. So if you enjoy these type of videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drop us a like if you like the video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on Gladiator 2. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. I apologize for my pronunciations of the names, but I did my best. We'll see you next time.